I'm going to have to take a lot of pauses here because I have a slight cold and I can't stop sneezing. But a few days ago, I posted an Alec Murdaugh video with an exclusive, never before heard phone call recording. This was thanks to the YouTube channel Phone Calls from Prison. They provided this phone call to me, but I posted this call, and I'll leave a link at the end of this video if you hadn't heard it yet, but it's a call from some random inmate to Buster Murdaugh. And it's such a pointless call, but I saw some theories here in the comments, and usually, I do like to read the comments. I try to keep my fingers on the pulse of, what the feedback is in the comments, because I think that's important. But every once in a while, you'll get a little wacky comment, and I've learned to start brushing it off. But at first, I got a comment, and it had this theory about the phone call, and if it had just been that comment, or maybe even just two comments expressing this theory about the phone call, maybe I would have just ignored it. I would have been like, this, whatever. But there's a large group of people who share this theory, this opinion, this idea about what they think is really going on in this phone call recording. And I'll play another excerpt here soon in case you just want to hear a little bit of it. But once it was that many people, I had to go back and take another listen and really listen for what they were trying to point out to me. And, let's just talk about this. I got two theories from the comments that I want to talk about. That's the point of this video. Let me go ahead and cover the first theory, and then I'll move on to the second. But the first one's pretty wild, and I'm not going to lie. Once I went back and listened, I was like, so many people believe that, in the call you hear this random inmate calling Buster Murdaugh, and he says his name is Tony, and he kind of identifies himself as, hey, I'm Tony. I'm a friend of your dad, Alec. We met in this cell block. We became such good friends. We're just such good friends. And I just wanted to call you randomly, even though you don't know who I am, from a can of paint, and tell you to tell Alec that Tony said, keep his head up. Okay. Good luck. I love him. Immediately, so many people were like, can you not see that this voice sounds like Alec making an attempt to disguise his voice? He is Tony Murdaugh. It's Tony Murdaugh. Alec Tony Murdaugh. That's him. And I went back and I listened, and I can't lie. Here, just go ahead and take a listen and see if you think this sounds like Murdaugh trying to sound like it's not Murdaugh.
Hello? Hey, who is this? Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? Is this Murdaugh's son? Hello?
Yeah. How can I help you?
Yes, sir. This is a good friend of his, man. I really care about him a lot, and I was just checking up on him, man. This Tony.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I ain't called with no bad intention. Me and Murdaugh were real close. We was in Mike going together, and that's really my buddy, man. I love him. And just tell him next time you speak to him, tell him Tony called to tell him to keep his head up, man. And I love him, man. I just want to check on him.
Okay. All right. I'll let him know.
I mean, it really does. I can't lie about that. But here's my thing about it. Number one, let's just pretend this theory is true. Murdaugh is calling Buster and pretending to be Tony and disguising his voice. For what? Why? Now, if you go back and listen, if you check out my previous video from 3 days ago where it has the entirety of this call, and trust me, it's not much more, or it's really not, it doesn't go more in depth than what you pretty much just heard. What's the point of doing that? Because Buster sounds genuinely confused and thrown off. Like he is none the wiser that if, let's just pretend this is Murdaugh, he has no idea. So he's just like, okay, yeah, all right. I guess I'll tell him. What's the point of doing that for Murdaugh? Like, what does he get out of that? Because he doesn't ask for anything. He doesn't ask for any message to be passed along other than, hey, tell your dad I love him and keep his head up. What would be the point of that? I mean, does Murdaugh, if this is Murdaugh, does he just like hang the phone up and turn around and he's got all his inmate buddies behind him and he's like, did you hear that, guys? He was so weirded out and confused. I got him. I had him going. I told you guys. I told you. Didn't I tell you? I told you I was a prank call master. I told you guys. All right. You didn't believe me, but I showed you. Buster, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't have the slightest clue. Like, I mean, what's the point of calling him and doing that? Right. So here's another thing. Just some of the slang and just the mannerisms and the way he was talking, this person, Tony. I feel like, I'll tell you this, I've heard a lot of phrases and things that you may not catch, but I've heard that plenty of times over and over again after doing 10 years in the same exact prison system around these same guys for 10 years. I've heard that, you know, a lot of things and just phrases and terminology and just things, you know, this guy said on the phone over and over and over. So many times it almost makes me sick. I genuinely don't think Alec Murdaugh would have picked up on that and like integrated that into his vocabulary, whether you're wanting to pretend or not. You know, it's kind of a gradual thing. It's like if you're born in the South and you move up to New York, you know, you might change your accent a little bit, but it does take time, you know. He hadn't been there long enough to start talking and saying some of the things I heard. It's just kind of difficult to explain unless you've been there so long. And I've just heard some of these just ways of saying things so many times by inmates, but I genuinely don't think it's him. But I do think, you know, it's pretty valid that it does sound like Murdaugh trying to disguise his voice. But if we put all that to the side and we just focus on what would be the point of Murdaugh doing that to Buster, why would he call Buster and say his name's Tony? And he hasn't, there's not even like, even if you're looking for a veiled, like secret coded message, there's nothing there. I think that kind of just debunks that. But let's move on to the second theory I see. And this is actually a bit more interesting than the first, you know, whereas the first is just kind of wacky. This is actually pretty interesting. So second, I saw a lot of people, the very big group shares this opinion that Tony is actually Tony. You know, it's a separate inmate. It's not Murdaugh pretending and making a prank call. It's actually a different inmate. And that this is some type of veiled threat to Alec Murdaugh through Buster. He wants to call Buster and ask Buster, you know, under the guise of, hey, I'm a friend. It's all good. This is all fine. It's positive. Just pass this encouraging message on to your father. My name's Tony, and I wish him the best. Good luck. I love him. People think this is a veiled threat so that, you know, in theory, Buster passes along this message, and Murdaugh knows in his mind, and this is where the breakdown comes in, you know, several people think several things. Murdaugh either owes this Tony guy money, or he's trying, you know, they're trying to extort him, and or, you know, something bad is happening here. Tony is up to no good, and he has negative intentions towards Murdaugh. And he's passing this message through Buster so that Alec knows, oh, they know my family. They can get to my family. This is their words, okay, not mine. They can get to my family. They know who they are. They know his number. They're talking to Buster. They're sending messages. This is a threat. I'll get your family if you don't pay me. I'm really hungry. I want my honey bun and my bag of potato chips, or I'm going to get Buster. I'm going to get him. I'm going to rough him up real bad. That's what they think this is. I mean, I'm not going to say it's just the most outlandish thing. I mean, it definitely can happen, but that's usually not going to happen through the legitimate prison, jail, phone call system. Your call is being monitored and recorded. You may start now. Like, no, they're not going to do that. Like, there's too many. If we're talking specifically South Carolina Department of Corrections, again, I've been there for a decade. I can guarantee you right now, if that man wants to send a threat or a message to further his extortion plot or his, I'm going to get you agenda, he's not going to do it through a recorded, systematic phone call, thing that's set up by the prison. I mean, he's going to use a cell phone. I mean, I could sit here all day and explain why and the how and the logistics, but I mean, if you just want to take my word for it and we can make this video a little shorter, trust me, I've been there. If he's really trying to do that, he's not going to use the prison's phone call system, where you have to enter your inmate PIN number, your inmate specific code and everything. Like, they'll know exactly who made this call. They can listen to exactly what you said. And then if anything in the future happens, they know exactly who's behind it. It's just a whole thing. Everyone knows not to do that. You use a cell phone if you're going to do stuff like that, if you want to get into that area. Okay. So I understand, it's a very interesting theory, but I don't believe it. If you want to hear what I really think of this call, what I think the actual genuine purpose of this call is, and you haven't seen this video already from about 3 days ago, here's the video right here. Go check it out. This is what I think, as a former inmate in the same place Murdaugh's at. And I hope you enjoy it. But I did want to cover these. I feel like they're valid. They're worth addressing. They're pretty notable. So there you go. Just keeping the conversation open here about what's going on right now in Murdaugh's head, especially with all this court stuff, and then him losing and just what's next. So that brings me to another point. If you want to see me make a video about what I believe Murdaugh's next steps are in prison, because I've made videos before where I'm talking about I have inside information from inmates who have reached out to me who are around Murdaugh right now. And at that moment, who said, this is before, he even started going to court for his, appeals, his, the juror, or, the woman was, influencing the jurors and all. This is before all that. And an inmate was telling me, I'm in the same cell block as Murdaugh. And, he pretty much, he wants to get into the mix. He wants to start doing some very, prisoner things and just start, rising up the ranks and just doing what inmates do, trying to take over, trying to gain some power, some influence, some control. He wants to, he's interested in that. But he's waiting to see how his appeal goes. So now his appeal has been shot down, it seems. I know there's maybe one more attempt that he can try to do, but I mean, it's over, right? Even if he wins, I mean, he's going to be there a long time. If you want to see me make a video just kind of recapping and covering, what Murdaugh said his plans would be once he realizes he's destined to spend the rest of his life in prison, pretty much, and just my thoughts on that and just my knowledge of that system and just what I think he'll do, let me know. And I will make that video tomorrow or the next day, sometime this weekend. I'll put that out. Let me know about that, because I just want to give you guys what you want to hear. So other than that, thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and I'll see you next time.